Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here again for another Thursday night Scrap Your Scraps. This is part two. Last episode we did using stencils and glossy Nuvo drops to create backgrounds on existing paper that I had used in my gel printing. So this week, however, we are going to be doing right from scratch. So I've got myself a piece of flat kind of mixed media weight paper, and I'm going to do a background. This the May month is called Florals and Emerald. So these are the colors I'm using to it's actually Evergreen Bough that I'm using as Emerald, and I'm combining two other colors that have a blue hinge to them, a blue and green hinge to them, and that is Pine Needles and Salvage Patina. So the majority of the color in the background is going to be Evergreen Bough, and then I'm going to add in the Pine Needles and the Salvage Patina. So I want to do some stenciling, and I'm going to first do an all over sort of evergreen bough. I don't have a spray. I would normally use a spray, but what I've got right now is the small mini pads. So I'm just going to mash a bunch of evergreen bough onto my mat. I'm going to just hit it with a little bit of water here. And I'm going to take my spatula, which I need to dry. All right. I'm just drying it off because I don't want to add any more water. And I'm just mixing this up. There we go. And now I'm going to smoosh and smoosh. Okay, and smoosh again. Now I'm going to add more evergreen bough. And this is why I said having the stamp would be much better, or having the spray would be much better. Again, smoosh with a bit of water. And how much water you put in will be decide the strength of the color that you're putting down on your mat, which is, you can see the color is quite light. Now this paper is quite porous, so I'm noticing it's picking up the ink very quickly. So I think I'm going to do a little less water. Just one spray of water. Mixing it all in because I want to get that color a little bit more, a little bit darker. And we're missing some spots. And I have a feeling that this might be cotton paper. Okay, I'm still needing to build up more. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some watercoloring. So I'm going to add use a water brush. So I need to have a set of brushes everywhere I go. So, all right, I'm going to use the big fat one. It's in my coloring bag. And I'm just going to start smooshing. And I'm going to smush this all the way over all the white spots. And then I'm going to come back after it's dried and add just a smoosh more. Alright, so we're going to let that dry. So this is dry, mostly dry. And now I'm going to put out another splotch. I could have used my re-anchor probably. Would have been easier. Little bit of water. I'm going to just mix it up. Maybe just a little bit more. And smush that in. And you see how it starts to build up the darker layers. Oh, there we go. That's looking lovely. All right, so I'm going to do 2 of these. So this is very monochromatic. I actually used a piece of paper and I didn't know I had gessoed it, so this is my gessoed version, but it's too pale for what I'm planning. All right, the reason I'm doing 2 pieces is because I can only get 4 ATC cards out of one of these 5.5 by 8.5 pieces. So I want to wipe that off a little more. There we go. Okay, so this one is dry, so we can start working on this one. And now what I want to do is I want to get an all-over stencil. So I'm going to go to my bigger stencils. And I'm just going to put a pattern in the background. So I keep my stencils in a tiny binder like this. And I just sort them under nature. What are some of the other categories? Geometrics. And I have words and other things. For now, I don't really want nature because we're going to be pulling flowers into everything. So I'm going to geometrics. I don't want like something like this. So I'm going to take one of these for one texture, and then I use this a lot. This one is one of my favorites. We're going to do small circles and big circles. So we get 2 different kinds of circles happening. Okay. There we go. Alrighty. So now I'm going to get my grip mat. I know I'm going to have to tape down my paper because the paper is still wet and it is not likely to grip. Although, no, it's still kind of smooshy. So we are going to get some bits of tape, and I'm just going to tape them at the very corners just to keep it in place. Not really, because once I get the stencil on it, it won't move. Oh, come on, open up. There we go. Just a little on the corners. And now that I know it's not going to move off the grip mat. And I'm going to start. I am going to have to tape my grip mat because the actual stencil is larger than the mat. So again, just a little on this side, a little across the top. I'm keeping this open because I'm going to move the stencil down. So once I've done the entire stencil. So now this time I'm going to use pine needles. And inside the back of my ink, I always have my blending foam. So I'm going to charge this up. Now this is going to end up being darker than what is than the Evergreen Bough, but that's what I want. So I'm just going to give it a light smooshing. I'm not worried about it being completely even everywhere. Just as long as there's some kind of vague pattern there, that's all I'm really worried about. Okay, so when I lift this, you'll see that it's darker in some places, lighter in other places, and that's just fine by me. Now, so I'm going to cross over a little bit here, and I probably should put a piece there and there. Okay, and then I'm just going to finish off. Okay, so there we have the entire sheet. Now this I'm going to pop into my stencil water. Even though it doesn't look like there's ink on there, there is totally ink on there. So we want to get that off at some point. But there's not a lot, which is what I like, the reason why I like using the foam rather than the brush applicators. Okay, and now I'm going to put the second stencil, and I'm going to put it, I'm afraid this might be too angular, so if I shift it slightly, and I can only go as far as there. We'll just go with it. So let's get our stencil there, and there, and there. And this, we're going to be using speckled, oh no, Salvage Patina, sorry. And I want to be a little more focused with my Salvage Patina because it's a light color and I'm going over darker colors. So I am not going to hit these guys. I'm going to leave those guys. Now it is best to have this completely dry before you start to do this, just because if it's a bit wet, you'll get the colors kind of blending together. All right, so there's, isn't that cool? You can see that image down below, and I'm using the circles that I had here, and I'm lining it up so I can finish the repeat. Now I'm going to be cutting this, so it's really not going to completely make a huge difference, but it's better if it's going to be so angular like this and so lined up like this, it's better to keep that going rather than having a free hand. And you can see it's very quick to get these layers handled. And there's our finished pattern. So this is now done. I'm going to repeat what I just did on the second piece, which is this piece here, and it's not quite dry yet. But there is our Funkadelic piece right there in the color Emerald. I'm looking at the screen, and the screen is showing me that this is coming out very, very blue, but it's actually quite green. All right. So I finished doing both of the papers in both of the patterns. Now what I want to do is just highlight some of the actual circles, the larger circles, with collage medium, so that I can have sort of a resist. So when I go to the next phase, there's going to be a little bit of a resist. So I'm just going to pounce my sponge in, but I'm going to pounce it off on here so it's not too heavy. And I'm just going to go in and randomly sort of pounce through the stencil. And then I'm going to move it down and do some random pouncing. There we go. On this side of the stencil as well. And that, it's hard to see, but should give us a little bit of a resist. I might go a little heavier on the next one just as an experiment. So let's line this up. Okay, I think I'm going to use a little heavier hand. All right, so now that can go there. This can come off here. And I just stick that with Velcro on the top. And now we're going to get rid of all these little bits and bobs and put that into the water. So everything's in the water now. I'm going to do a contrasting color. I'm going to add some picked raspberry and some Kitsch Flamingo. The Kitsch Flamingo, I've got liquid already, so I'm actually just going to dip a paintbrush into it. And what I want to do is have it, I'm going to do it in two different directions. So on one, I'm going to go down this way. On the other, I'm going to go down this way. And what I want to do, let's find a good fine, let's see if this will work. What I want to do is just scrape off, and I'm probably going to have to add water, I can see. And this is actually Oxide. What I'm doing is just trying to make lines of color. All right, so I'm going to pick up some water here and just see if I can add it to get that to roll. There we go. There we go. Come on, roll away. See, what's happening is that they're getting stuck and they're absorbing into the paper, and I'm getting blotches. So we are gonna do some creative painting because this paper is too moist and it holds too much water. So we're just going to add the color in painted strokes. Pretend when all else fails. And I think that's going to be good. Oh well, I might as well do the other one too. So I'm just going to do it in the same manner. I'm going to start up at the top and then actually start from the bottom is almost better. A little bit of heavier dollops up the top here and pull them down so we have a direction. That's going to be fine. Again, making sure that you get the oxide out of your brush and clean up a little bit before we move on. I could have also done sprays, but I wanted to play with that whole idea of dribbles. So now, going in the opposite direction, I'm taking a brighter color, pinked raspberry, and I'm going to put it on the mat. This also you can put ink right onto the mat. Actually, you know what? I just thought of something. Instead, well, since I've got this here, I don't want to waste. I'm going to add some water. And I want to do the same thing with the brighter pink. And again, it's just bleeding in, but it's not becoming brighter because I've got too much water to make it run. All right. So that's okay. I've got a plan. I'm going to get my re-anchor, which is already liquid in intense color, and we're going to repeat that. So I am adding color to this. Let's get all the ink out of there for now. This napkin will end up going in my stash of beautifully colored napkins. I'm going to grab the refill. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a little shake. Now, because I want this intense color, we're going to go right to the paper and just draw it down. Maybe I will put a tiny bit of water here so I can help move the color. So it's a much deeper red. And see how it's blended in there? And it's really brought up the chalkiness that's inside. And I think we still have to do this painting method to get things to look strippy stripey. Because I've got lots of blobby blobs. But I want strippy stripes. So we've got it going in both directions. And that's what happens when an oxide and a regular ink, dye ink, touch. This becomes even more evidently Oxide. So now let's do it on. Let's prep a little bit more. So we're going to have some extra water there. We're going to have some ink there. We're going to start an ink bubble here. And I'm just noticing my resist is working in some spots. As you can see here, the resist is working in some spots, which I wanted to have happen as well. So it looks a little bit distressed. I'm gonna have to fake it a tiny bit. So to have this technique work better, you want to make sure that you're using a non-porous paper. My paper is very porous. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough. And where I see the resist, I'm just going to pull off the ink. I think it's very cool. Doesn't it resist as well with the chalky surface, but it totally resists with the inky surface. And I'll show you in more detail in a moment. Now, didn't have enough resist on this one. But that's okay. Alrighty. Put the lid on that so we don't have a big accident. Okay, so let's look at what's going on here. We don't need this anymore. Actually, I think I should give that one quick wipe because I can see some pink hue. And reds, as you know, are going to stain. So pinks and reds will stain your mattes and things. Okay, that can go in the water. Alrighty, so resist on this one. You can see the resist area coming through. I didn't put it on thick enough here, and I think I should have put it on thicker. Some spots were thicker and some spots weren't, so you've got that resist happening more frequently with the, and right there is a really cool one, with the, just the dye ink, the distress ink versus the distress oxide. So interesting enough. So there we go. So we got a vertical and a horizontal of this. I'm going to give this a quick dry. I just want to review your color. So overall was green. Then we had pine needles for the tiny circles and Salvage Patina for the bigger circles. We had picked raspberries. I would have used the spray, but I used the re-inker for picked raspberries, and I used the Distress Oxide for the Kitsch Flamingo. So two different pinks. So if you're having trouble trying to figure out what colors go with what colors, and what are contrasting colors and what are analogous colors, you can always go online and just ask and just put in what colors go with emerald green. So that will help you to quickly figure out your coloring. And then hopefully you have spent some time doing some samples. Oops, problem with the Oxide is it leaves a white haze everywhere. Okay, and you have to clean off your oxides. That's a must do. So hopefully you have a book where you've done some sampling of your colors so you can match colors from the internet into the colors that you have in your stash. Alrighty. So we are just going to give this a quick dry. And it's okay for your paper to curl. Don't get upset if you see that happening, because when you flip it over, it goes right back down. All right. So now it's time to cut. So these pieces are cut at 8.5 by 5.5. So I am going to cut them in half at I'm going to say 2.5. And 2.5. And hang on to these pieces. They come in handy when you do paper weaving, so don't throw those out. And then I'm going to turn these around to 3.5. And 3.5. All these pieces are going to be awesome pieces for other projects. And 2.5. And then 3.5. Alrighty, so it's now time. We've got our stuff ready to go. It's now time to move on. So this time I decided to pick my sayings first, and then I'm going to pick the adornments to go with the sayings based on the color and whatnot. So I have a smattering of all kinds of things. I got butterflies in this container. I've got flowers in all of these containers. Lots and lots of flowers. Tons of flowers. I got leaves and foliage in this container, and I got bugs in this container. So we got lots of things to choose from, and if you keep them organized, it's easy just to pull them all out when you're ready to go. So I have decided that I'm going to have everything going horizontal, or maybe I haven't decided that yet, because these are all horizontal. Whoopsie. You can't lose things. So this is May, and it's florals and emerald. So, and I have 6 or more of these. I have much more than 6. So I get to choose what I want. So I want 3 vertical and 3 horizontal. So this one I kind of like because it's got a little bit of the hot stuff. I'm having problems with this one. I can't, that's a little too much for me for what I had in mind for this project. This one, because this is right on the edge, it's hard to cover, but this one I can certainly put a doodad there to minimize that craziness. And I think, no, maybe they go that way. And then these guys, I have 4 to choose from. I'm actually liking this one very much because it has that broken up part from where I did the, and I like that one because it's just cool. Actually, I think I want to go that way on that one. That one's okay. Or do I want to go that way on that one? No, I'll go that way. This is, I don't know which way I want to go. This is kind of cool like that. And then I have to decide between these two. This one has some broken up bits and little doodads of it. This is blobby, so I am going to take that one. So I've got my 6, and I think I'm going to have it go in that direction. Now I have my words, and I've got this word that's in the exact same color as I cut it out of one of my jelly plates. So I like the fact that it is similar to this color that's going on here, and so it complements the two things. So those two, I feel like they are going to go together. This one, I think, is a good cover for that blobby bit at the bottom. And I have a bunch of other things. I have a Today is the Day. I don't want to cover too much. Oh, I could put it up there. And I thought of thank you, but you know what? It's too close to the color, so we're not going to do that. Chase your dreams, live in the moment, kicking back. Lounging is sort of in the same color. Kicking back, I kind of like that phrase, so maybe we'll have that over here. And I'm trying to move things around so that